Hello and welcome to Module 5. We have now passed the halfway mark of this 8-week course. And this is an important week because this is the week that you will be writing a draft of your evaluation essay that will be revised and be submitted again in the revised version in Module 7. So let's get started. As always, we've got objectives and the overview. And this week I would like to read the module overview because I think it gives us a good idea of what the focus will be this week and what you'll be accomplishing. This module helps you gather all the writing you have completed so far and assemble it as a part of a working project draft. In this working project draft, we will use the preliminary introduction you wrote in the previous module and then create a paragraph for each of the reports you chose to pursue, developing it with evidence from the original article and your own explanations and analysis. The assignment this week will focus on one core idea and target the first audience you selected in Module 2. So several things coming together from previous modules to help you move forward into actually writing this complete draft essay. As always, we've got tips for success as well as the module at a glance to help you go through this module step by step and continue this actively. And that's followed by a very important Module 5 guide. This gives you very complete and pretty detailed information about developing a first draft. And I'm not going to take the time to read the whole thing, obviously, because I know that you do that, and that's your responsibility rather than mine. But I do want to point out a few things. First of all, if we scroll down under developing the first draft, we find an outline, and we'll be using this outline with some additional information plugged in to help you make the transition from where you were in Module 4, having written an introduction with opinion with thesis, having read your article and looked at it very closely, how you're going to take those kinds of information and use this outline to organize the information and be sure that you have everything that you need before you actually start writing paragraphs for the draft essay. So this is where the original essay outline is located, but then again, I will be providing you one with a little bit more detail in the actual announcement. In a few minutes, we'll go through the process that I'm suggesting that you use to go from where you were last week to actually writing a complete draft by the end of this week. Let's see, the key concepts. Remember that an essay is composed of an introduction, multiple body paragraphs, and a conclusion. So you're going to be thinking about how you can organize the ideas in your paper so that your audience can understand them. Body paragraph should focus on one point each. That's a basic concept of writing. That point should be one reason why your thesis is true. Each body paragraph will state the point, use evidence to back up that point, and then tie back to the thesis. The outline will help you have the parts that you need in order to do that in your body paragraphs. Finally, the conclusion will tie your essay together and state why your analysis is important. So you'll be thinking about how can you end your paper in a meaningful and memorable way. And again, the outline will provide you with some step-by-step information about how you can achieve an effective conclusion. Next, we have the resources page. And I'm actually going to say something some people might find a little controversial, but my suggestion is that you wait to read the required resources listed in Chapter 4, Chapter 26, and Chapter 34 until after you have completed your draft this week and submitted it. The reason I'm saying that is because these chapters talk about some things that you really don't need to consider until after you actually have a completed draft. They talk about things like style, things that you want to consider when you're actually in the revision part of the writing process. And that will take place in Module 6 with some preparation in Module 5 as you get some feedback from both your instructor and your classmates. So rather than having you read these first and possibly be overwhelmed and confused, I'm suggesting that you wait to read them until after you've written the draft. There are some actual techniques mentioned, for instance, in chapter 26, reverse outlining, that will be used as part of the revision process. So we'll wait until you actually finish the draft to come back and then read these. There are some APA and MLA resources which you will need in writing your draft, because you'll be pulling evidence in the form of quotes or paraphrases from the original article that you chose and inserting them into the body paragraph. Those will need to be cited. And so depending on whether you're using APA or MLA, we've got links here that take you to a library resource, which we haven't been to yet. And let's just click on that so you can see what I'm talking about. The library has pages that are designed to tell you everything you ever wanted to know about these, about APA and also MLA as citation systems. I didn't suggest that you look at these early on because, again, they can be kind of overwhelming. There's so much information here that sometimes it's just scary. And we don't want to scare students off when we get to citation. So we have kept it simple. I gave you feedback on your citation in module 4 for the summary quotes and paraphrases. It's pretty basic and gives you really all the information that you need to know for writing a draft and using correct citation. But this is the resource that you want to know where it is, where it's located, because as you move forward in courses at Southern New Hampshire, you may be writing papers where you need more than just the basic citation. And this is the page that you want to go to for information. Kind of just scroll through it, make yourself aware of what is here, and bookmark it possibly, or just know that you have to click on Shapiro Library and then APA or MLA resources. So we have the links here to both APA and MLA. And then the additional support, the option support, are 2 videos that we've already watched. So I don't think that you really need to go back and review those, particularly at this stage of the game, unless you just feel motivated to do so. But again, I would suggest that you do this after you do the draft for this week. We only have 1 assignment this week. However, it's a pretty substantial assignment because it is writing complete drafts. So plan your time accordingly. Realize that there are several stages to writing a draft. We're going to go over those today as part of this video, and that you need to allot yourself plenty of time so that you're not trying to accomplish everything on Sunday evening. As I said before, usually the work that's done on Sunday evenings isn't your best work because you're rushed and you're stressed and you're worried about meeting that midnight deadline. So plan your week accordingly. I will be sending out an email to alert you that this week does have quite a bit of information as well as writing involved. So as we look at the assignment, the first thing we always do is check first, click on guidelines and rubric for the specifics on the assignment. And there is lots of information to be had here. And I won't reread the overview because pretty much the overview at the beginning of the module says the same thing. And I won't read the directions either because they're pretty specific to what you're used to as far as alerting you to the directions and what to submit information. Under the directions, it says specifically you must address the following rubric criteria. And I want you to know that this doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have these things as part of your outline. Instead, they are criteria that will be included as the nature of an evaluation essay. So I do want to read through these really quickly and just make you aware that the outline will have you including this information. These aren't things that you're going to specifically, be able to check off a list as you go through first the outline and then the writing of the draft. They're incorporated into just the process and what you've already been doing. Number one, identify the topic of the text. That happens in the introduction. Number two, explain the writer's choices in relation to the genre of the text. Again, that takes place in the introduction. Three, describe the writer's purpose. You won't be doing that specifically, but that may be part of what you include in your introduction. Number four, explain the writer's choices in terms of audience purpose and their subject. Again, those are all part of what you have been exploring and learning about in previous modules in order that you can write an introduction that includes all the information that your audience needs in order to understand what you're evaluating, and then to also understand your thesis statement as you make an evaluation claim about the article that you chose. So additionally, we've talked about core idea, there will be details summarized. You'll be supporting your analysis of the core idea with evidence from the text. This is number 8. And A says you have to include at least one quote from the text. So that means you have to have one quote, at least one quote in your body paragraphs. However, that doesn't mean that you're only going to have one piece of evidence. What it means is that every body paragraph will include some evidence from the original article that you chose, but only one of them has to be a quote. So the other two body paragraphs could have paraphrases. Each body paragraph does have to include evidence, but only one of the 3 body paragraphs necessarily has to use quotes. Personally, I think it's easier just to do quotes because it takes extra time, I think, to paraphrase, to rethink and reword someone else's idea. So sometimes, especially early in games, since many of you are writing essays for the first time after a long period of time, probably, it can just be easier to write the quotes and cite the quote, use the same kind of quote format, citation format, over and over again. And then you'll also be explaining how this evidence supports the core idea. What to submit? There are templates here for APA and MLA, but I want to show you that they're pretty basic. What they mostly show you is the template has the title page. This is for the APA format, and then the title has to appear at the top of the next page, and then it just says insert text, which basically is your draft. And then you end that with the references listed at the end, which will just be your chosen articles information. It's the same thing for the MLA template. So basically, they're just showing you how to do the first page, and APA as a title page, and MLA as a heading. And we end with in APA as a references page, and MLA as a works cited page. And then you're just copying and pasting the draft in the middle, if you so choose to do it that way. The examples that are included, be sure that you do read the what to submit information, because there are some specifics that need to be followed for this specific assignment. For instance, this needs to be double spaced. Needs to have 12-point Times New Roman font, so not another font, not any other size. It needs to have 1-inch margins all around. That's standard for submissions in scholarly writing. You'll be using evidence in your paper. You'll be citing that evidence, and you'll need to follow APA or MLA citation guidelines. All right, and these are supporting materials. We've got, again, an example from both APA and MLA. In a previous announcement, I gave you links to documents that did not include the bracketed information, because personally, I think it's much easier to read. And I wanted you to get a sense of actually what you're writing without thinking too much yet about the particular parts. But now it is time to start thinking about the parts. And we have these exemplars that have the bracketed information, but I also will be giving you a link to a different format of looking at how the parts are put together that, for me personally, I think works a little bit better in terms of students being able to visualize how things are constructed. As always, we've got a grading rubric. I think it's a good idea to look at the rubric before you do the assignment, before you write the draft, before you use the process. I'm going to suggest, again, to make yourself aware of how your draft is going to be looked at. Notice that it's not looking at like a breakdown paragraph by paragraph of your draft. Instead, it's looking at, are you accomplishing the things that were listed under the directions as far as, excuse me, as far as what should be included, excuse me, in the overall essay. So does the overall essay identify the topic, the genre, the purpose, etc.? There is not necessarily a place that I can go to and point in the essay where this is happening necessarily, but I will be able to tell if it's been included. Details, yes, those will be your body paragraphs. Evidence will be either quotes or paraphrases in the body paragraphs. And then clear communication. Is it well organized? Does it have the structure of an essay? Is it consistently organized in that fashion? And then finally, citations and attributions. Citations and attributions are the same thing. Sometimes either word can be used. I will always say citations because that's what I've always used. Citations will be looked at. I gave you feedback in Module 4 assignments on how to do them correctly. So the expectation is that you review that feedback and that you will be attempting to do it correctly in your drafts. Okay, so let's move on to the suggested process that I'm going to have you use or suggest that you use. Okay. All right, this is part of the announcement, and it will be found where you always find announcements, and it will be there on Monday of the module week starting at midnight that Monday. This is just part of the way down, so that's what I wanted to focus on in the video. First of all, as always, you click on the guidelines and rubric, read the overview, read the directions. The outline below can help you organize your ideas for each paragraph of the essay. The Roman numerals represent paragraphs, and the capital letters represent content within the paragraphs. Don't fill it in yet. Follow the steps below the outline. So first, let's just look at the outline so you are familiar with how it's set up. For instance, we have number 1, the introduction paragraph. This should sound familiar to you because this is what you use to help you write the introduction paragraph and the thesis statements for last week, drawing in the reader, providing an overview, and then ending with the thesis statement. Then we have body paragraphs, and the information for the body paragraph is repeated for 3 body paragraphs. First, you're going to restate the first key point from your thesis statement. That's the topic sentence of the paragraph. That's going to be followed by analysis of the key point. Then it's going to be followed by supporting evidence in the form of a quote or a paraphrase from the chosen article. And then the body paragraph will conclude with a tieback sentence that connects back to the topic sentence. You'll notice that in this outline, as we proceed through the 3 body paragraphs, the same things are repeated in the same order. But we'll notice in the sample, the highlighted sample that I'm going to show you in just a second, that isn't always the case. As long as you're including all the body paragraphs, we have to start with the topic sentence, but they don't necessarily have to be analysis, evidence in that order. Sometimes they can be combined. Sometimes it's evidence first, followed by analysis. But you do have to have analysis and evidence in every body paragraph. You also need to begin with every body paragraph with a topic sentence and finish every body paragraph with a tieback sentence. Then we have the concluding sentence, and again, there are specific content things that need to be in the concluding paragraph. It's a single paragraph where you restate your thesis statement, emphasize the importance of the analysis, and you provide your reader with a final reflective thought. And as we looked at the sample in just a moment. Well, let's go ahead and get it now. All right, this is what I'm talking about, and I've only done one sample. I've done it with the APA version. It seemed like the majority of students in Module 4 were using APA, so that's what I ended up deciding to do. It begins with the sample title page. This is a correct APA title page, including page numbers. So be sure that you have page numbers. They go in the upper right, and they start with the second page. You might have noticed that I like to use highlighting, and the reason for that is that I think it helps students to kind of visualize that paragraphs are built of a couple of different things. They're building blocks that are put together in order to achieve the purpose of that particular paragraph type. So for instance, in the introduction paragraph, as we learned last week, we start with drawing the reader in, and here that's shown in the turquoise section. That's followed by providing an overview of the topic, and that's where you listed the title of the article, the author, and your short summary, which you've already practiced doing, and that's the green. And then the introduction paragraph ends in yellow with your thesis statement. I'm using the sample essay that's been used throughout the course, titled What Everyone Needs to Know to Be More Productive by Dana Rosmanier. And you've seen this topic sentence or the thesis statement before because that's been used in the thesis before. Notice out here to the side, I've got comments. That's what this word function is. And so if they're not appearing, you can just click on the little text box here, then they'll appear. And it's just telling you what's being shown. So turquoise is drawing in the reader, the green is providing an overview, and the yellow is the thesis statement. Then as we continue into the body paragraphs, I try to use the same colors for a couple of reasons. One, it's important to remember that the topic sentence, which is in yellow, begins the body paragraph, and then the tie-back sentence, which is in yellow also, and ends the body paragraph. Both of those actually tie back to a thesis statement. They are a continuation of the discussion that started in the thesis statement. In this case, we're doing evaluation. So in the thesis, you have named the evaluation that you're doing, you named the criteria, and then you're reminding the reader of that focus in your topic sentences, reminding them again in the concluding sentence. And then that's one of the ways that the overall essay structure is formed. We have thesis statements, then we have topic sentences and concluding sentences as we move through the essay, reminding the audience each time of what it is you're focusing on, what your purpose is, which in this case is evaluation. So for each body paragraph, we begin in yellow with a topic sentence, and that's followed by turquoise, which is analysis of the key point in this case. And then that's followed by the evidence in green, and that's where in this case there's a quote. And then notice the citation. It's complete and correct APA citation, author's last name, comma, space, year of publication, 2015, comma, space, P period, the page, and space, and then the number of the page, 3. Those are in parentheses. Notice that they come immediately following the last quoted word, and that the period ending the sentence comes after the end parentheses. Then the paragraph has a concluding sentence in yellow. So it is echoing the topic sentence, again, tying back to the thesis, echoing the topic sentence, reminding the reader or the audience of what the paragraph's purpose was. The next, and then again, the comments out to the side remind you of the function. The next body paragraph mixes things up just a little bit. We have a topic sentence in yellow beginning the paragraph. Then in green, following the topic sentence this time, we have the evidence. And then we have the analysis following the evidence. So green is the evidence, turquoise is the analysis, and then yellow is the concluding sentence. It's fine to switch them around. In fact, in the next one, you'll see an even different way of doing it. It's what works best for you and what works best for the paragraph. As long as you're getting in all the information that's needed in the body paragraph, it doesn't matter as much about the particular order. You're not necessarily having to follow the order in our outline. Again, we've got an example here of a correct APA citation. We've got a quote directly from the article that you focused on, that you chose in Module 1, and then a concluding sentence that ties everything back to the thesis. Our third body paragraph, again, begins with the topic sentence. And then this time, we have a combination of analysis and evidence within the same sentence. And so everything that's in green is a combination of both analysis and evidence. And that's fine to do. It's a little bit more challenging to make sure that you're having both things, but this author has pretty effectively combined those two, evidence and analysis, within the same couple of sentences. As long as you have both, then you're accomplishing what the body paragraph needs to do, which is to tell the audience what the focus is, how it connects to the evaluation introduced in the thesis, provides analysis and supporting evidence, and then ends with a concluding sentence. Finally, we have the conclusion paragraph. The first thing that we do is in yellow, and it's a restatement of the thesis. It won't be exactly the same wording, but if it is, that's fine, because we're purposely focusing more on the purpose of paragraphs within the overall essay structure in the draft, rather than being so concerned about the wording. So if you just want to copy and paste your thesis statement into the conclusion paragraph, that's fine by me for the draft. The important thing is that you demonstrate that you understand what a conclusion paragraph is supposed to do. So we begin with the restatement. That's in yellow. That's followed by emphasizing the importance of the analysis. That's in turquoise. You just want to remind your audience that it's important that they look at this original article, the chosen article, and think about what you have evaluated. That because you've taken a closer look and you've done a critical reading, you have found out some things that you've shared in this evaluation essay that are important for your audience to know. And then finally, you close the conclusion paragraph with a final reflective thought. That's usually the last sentence, and here it is in green. Just reminding the readers again or the audience again of why this should be considered by them. And if we keep scrolling down, we find the references page, which is a listing of the original article in correct and complete APA format. Again, this has all been APA. MLA is different, so it's important that you consult your resources in how to do that correctly. So if you put the outline from the announcement side by side with the highlighted essay, you'll be able to see how the parts are put together into paragraphs. So the introduction paragraph, we have the three things. We have drawing in the reader, providing an overview, followed by the thesis statement. And the same is true of the body paragraphs. And I don't want to repeat myself. We start with topic sentences, we have analysis and evidence, and then we end each paragraph with a concluding sentence, a tieback sentence. So having those side by side might help you visualize a little bit better what it is we're moving toward. We're going to be taking the information in the outline and then putting in body paragraphs. And this is a suggested process that I'm going to encourage you to follow in moving from what you have gathered so far, including what you did in Module 4, and getting to the point where you're actually writing the draft. So let's go through this step by step. First of all, number one, gather what you've already written. So this would be the introduction paragraph and the thesis. You might want to copy and paste those into a new Word document so that you have them there and ready to go with that information. Number 2, return to the article you chose to identify supporting quotes or paraphrases for each of the 3 key points that are listed in your thesis. You can use paraphrases, but there must be one quote used in the body paragraph. So go back to your original article, and either by highlighting, underlining, copying and pasting, whatever you need to do, gather quotes or paraphrases that you can use to support the 3 points that are supporting points in your thesis statement. So going back to last week, hopefully you wrote a thesis that has 3 key points that are listed after your evaluation claim. You'll need to be able to support each of those by having a piece of evidence in each of the body paragraphs. So we want to gather that information first, so that we're sure that we have everything that we need before we start trying to put it together. Sometimes it's useful to have more than one picked just in case. It's okay to have more than one in a particular body paragraph, having more than one piece of evidence. However, this is a really short essay, 2 to 3 pages. So the important thing is that you demonstrate your understanding of how an evaluation essay is structured, that you have all the parts in the right places. That's the most important part of this assignment. Number 3, use the outline below, it's also in the module guide, to plug in what you've gathered so far. Introduction, the thesis, and then the evidence. So you're actually going to copy and paste those into the outline so that once again, you have those things in order in one place so that it's easy then to put it together into a draft. The next thing you're going to do is number 4, write topic sentences for the 3 body paragraphs. Use that highlighted example essay for how to write those topic sentences. Plug those into the outline as well. So once you've written them, then copy and paste them into the outline. Number 5, write the tie-back sentences for the 3 body paragraphs. So for the concluding sentences at the end of the body paragraphs. Then plug those into the outline. Number 6, write analysis for the 3 body paragraphs. Plug those into the outline. Once you've got the evidence, then you should be able to do the analysis. And again, use that highlighted essay to help you understand what the purpose of the analysis is. It basically is explaining how the quote or paraphrase supports the overall evaluation. And you'll see that in the sample essay. And finally, number 7, write the conclusion paragraph with the 3 parts noted in the outline. Also plug those into the outline, so everything is in the same place. Number 8, cite all paraphrases and quotes correctly for the citation system you're using, either APA or MLA. Go ahead and do that in the outline, plug it in, so that the next step becomes very easy. This is where the link will be in the announcement for the highlighted example. Once you have completely filled in the outline and reviewed the highlighted examples, then you will be ready to put the outline information into paragraphs. Because you've already plugged everything in, you will easily be able to just copy and paste from the outline over into the Word document that is going to be your draft. You can use the template with the assignment, or you can just create your own Word document. But you'll already have all these parts of the outline plugged in. You're going to replace drawing the reader with the section of your introduction from last week that drew in the reader. E is going to be where you provided the overview of the topic from your introduction last week. You're going to plug it in right here. And then your thesis statement, you're going to plug it in right here. So then you'll have everything in order and complete, and then all you have to do is transfer it over to the draft. Final step would be to simply review what you've copied and pasted, make sure that it makes sense, that it's fairly smooth, compare it to the highlighted essay, making sure that you have all the parts, and you should have all the parts because you've plugged them in here in the outline. Then you're ready to submit, making sure you have the right font, that you write, that you have 1-inch margins, that you have a title page or correct email heading. I highly encourage you to start on this early in the week. It may seem like it's a pretty straightforward process, and you maybe have already the introduction and the thesis, so it won't be that much more work to create the rest of it. But take your time in understanding how the outline works, how you can move from an outline to a draft, creating a structure in the outline so that you're not having to do that when you're writing the draft. The outline is considered part of the pre-writing stage of the overall writing process. We don't actually move out of pre-writing until we're putting it into paragraphs. That's why pre-writing is so important. It allows you to consider possibilities, to organize and see what's most effective before you actually put it into the paragraph format. Again, I will be sending out an email to remind you that we've got a lot of work to do this week and to encourage you to get started early. The other thing that getting started early works well for is that if you become confused or you're not clear on some action, some instruction needs clarification, or you need more information, or you need some additional resource or whatever, by addressing that early in the week, looking over the assignment, looking over the announcement, looking over the samples that I provided. And then if you have questions, you have time in the week to ask me, either if they're general questions about the assignment or the draft or the outline, you can ask those in the general questions discussion, because it's very likely that someone else has a similar question, and then I can answer them there. If you have questions about grading or information on personal issues, those should definitely be emailed to me, and those will be kept private. Also be aware, as I noted in the Module 4 reminder announcement about academic support, that it's available to you all the time, and it's a free resource to all Southern New Hampshire students. If you need a little bit of additional help with anything, understanding how to find evidence in your article, for instance, that's a good resource, because you could have tutoring, drop-in tutoring that's available 24/7. Later on, when we get to the revised version of the draft for the final essay, then you may want to turn your essay in to have someone give you written feedback. You can also do that with the draft. But just familiarize yourself with what's available in academic support and consider using it. There's no shame in asking for additional help, either by contacting me or working with academic support. All right, have a good week.